Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, and specifically some of the new monsters and creatures they have in it. Now, before they actually get into all the new monsters, and they've got a ton of them at the back part of this book right here, they talk about monsters of Ravenloft and even give you ideas for modifying monsters and changing them up. So they talk about here in the first paragraph, make even the most commonplace monster more frightening. And I think we've probably all done this to some point. If you ever DM and created an area, maybe it's full of anything from goblins to orcs to whatever it may be. Well, the leader is usually always something different. There's something about them that makes them special, stronger, whatever that may be. And that's sort of what they're getting at right here. Make your creatures unique. Change them up. Look at something you like from another creature and add it to a different one. So, of course, that's how a lot of these creatures come about. But they mention horror monsters in 6 simple techniques that can transform a stat block out of the monster manual into a completely new horror. So they talk about changing things like the origin of the monster. Where did it come from? Make it notorious. Is it well known in the area for some reason? Maybe it's been after the people for many years or decades. Describe the monster vividly. They're going to look at tactics for that. Actually give it some clever hunting trap tactics, right? Make it smarter than what you would think most would be. It can always be a unique individual. Give it some type of unusual trait. They're going to talk about things the monsters may do to maybe announce themselves before they're ever there. And then give it minions, or let it even be the minion of something more powerful. So there's lots of ways to change them up. So they go back to the first one, the origin. Maybe this creature is different due to some type of curse. Maybe it was a magical experiment. Maybe just genetics gone bad and created some type of very odd individual. All those are good ways to give it a unique origin. So they mention it being a one-off fluke, or maybe the product of some crazy magic right there. So those are some ways you could start off with origins. Then again, make it notorious. They talk about making a unique individual and giving it a reputation in an area. Have someone in, say, a town first tell the party about the legend of this creature. What has it been doing to be so notorious in this area? Is it a particular deed? Does it have an unusual form? Does it have a unique peculiarity about it? Maybe a sound, a smell, a look, anything such as that right there. Anything, as they say, to embellish the details. And they talk about an example here of something called a whistling fiend. Basically, you'll hear it whistling before it ever gets there to build suspense. And something exactly like this was done in Icewind Dale, right? The Rime of the Frost Maiden. Towards the end of the adventure, before they get to that final city that crashed from the sky, there was a vampire that was following them through these ice caves. And they could always hear it cackling and laughing, but never could locate him. And he would attack only when he had advantage. That's what they're talking about right here. That was a great example of a notorious monster there. So they talk about describing the monster. They talk about dwell on the description. Really add to it. Now they talk about holding up a picture of the creature, say from the monster manual, but then adding to it. Focus on a particular feature, one or more. Does it look more alien, where usually it wouldn't? Does it look inhuman? Does it look undead? Whatever that may be. Get into more than just the visual. Maybe it smells like rotting flesh. Like with this guy over here, he whistles as he approaches. Maybe it's something puts out a lot of heat, a lot of cold, whatever that may be. They talk about making it personal. Describe to the party how they feel when they see this thing. Does it make your guts twist? The acrid air stings your nostrils, right? You got to really be able to use your adjectives well there. They talk about monstrous tactics. Have it grapple. Right? I think grappling is one thing that always sort of panics players because they feel like they've been grabbed and they can't get away from this thing. And what's it going to do next? Bite them. Is it going to infect them with something? Poison them. You get automatic hits and damage. Grappling's a great example. Shoving. Maybe it even tries to shove them off into a pit. Maybe there's a gelatinous cube at the bottom of it. Maybe after they're grappled and they get attacked, describe the creature as biting them on the face. Maybe act like it's trying to eat towards their brain or anything such as this right here. So adding good description to the tactic is a really good idea. They talk about monstrous traits. take something from one individual, like say a chameleon-like skin or a doppelganger's ambush, and add it to something that usually doesn't have it. Give it invisibility. Whatever you can think of. They talk about the frightful presence of a dragon, anything like that. So mix up traits that you see from one monster and give it to another one. They talk about monstrous minions right here. Maybe this individual is unique because it was created by some type of evil wizard or whatever that may be. So maybe it's a bodyguard. Maybe it's a telepathic minion that serves its master, whatever. You can make it a unique minion in lots of different ways. So they really do give you some good ideas, especially as DM, for really changing up your encounters and making them better. So I like that section. And then they talk about creating unique nightmares. And they have a great idea right here for a new creature called the Bagman, which they tell you at the beginning is an urban legend. But I would put this thing into a game in a second right here. Not because it's so deadly, but because of the mere surprise of him and the fun that would go with it. So what is this Bagman? Now they tell you the urban legend tells us that an adventurer got into something they couldn't get out of, say with a party. So they left their party to die and hid inside of a bag of holding. Well, when this individual went in, they got lost in the extra-dimensional spaces. Over a long period of time, this individual was transformed. Now, it's been transformed, I guess, into something like you see right down here. Look at this thing. Looks almost like some type of undead, and that probably wouldn't be a far stretch. So they tell you that occasionally what this Bagman will do is just randomly slip out of any bag of holding. So it's sort of like he can jump extra dimensionally from one bag to another. So how fun would it be for somebody in the party to just reach into their bag of holding, which is a common magic item, to pull something out of it, or maybe to put something in it, and this undead, slimy looking hand grabs a hold of them and tries to drag them in, or maybe it jumps out and attacks. They're going to be wondering, where did this thing come from? They're not going to have any idea how powerful it is, and the surprise will add to it. So I think this is a great idea. And they even tell you that if your party wants to tempt fate, they can whisper into a bag of holding 3 times, "Follow my voice," and the Bagman may appear. May want to have it as a random die roll. But I think the Bagman right there is an absolutely great idea to add to any party. And again, not to be something that's deadly, to surprisingly just kill somebody, but make them wonder what in the world is happening. All right, so getting on to their new creatures right here, they start off with this Bodytaker Plant. Now, with the Bodytaker Plant, they tell you they don't know if this thing comes from the stars or maybe somewhere in the depths. They just don't know. And it really seems alien, because when you look at how they describe this thing, it's straight out of a very old sci-fi show called Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So what is this thing right here? They tell you it's actually a malicious plant, right up here at the beginning. And they tell you it's called Bodytaker because it actually does that. It wants to completely dominate an area by taking all the individuals in a society and replacing them with duplicates that are called podlings. So individuals are going to be captured by this Bodytaker Plant and then reformed into something that's a minion of this plant. So the Bodytaker Plant views itself as the perfect organism and seeks to dominate the land. That definitely sounds like something that's alien, like a mind flayer. To their minds, a world would be healthier and more efficient were they in control. Anyone who disagrees either lacks perspective or is fit to serve only as fertilizers. If you don't agree with the plant, you just ought to be dead and just be fertilizer for them. Sounds sort of like the Borg, right? Resistance is futile. Seems like the attitude they have. A Bodytaker Plant roots deep, spreading invisible filaments through the soil, or actually it says near invisible. Should any of those fibers survive the plant's destruction, the plant just regrows in a matter of months. So if you kill one of these plants, if you don't salt or poison the soil in some way, it's just going to come right back, and you're going to have to deal with it again. You can see this individual growing inside of what is considered a huge plant. Now remember, when it duplicates, I guess you say replicates an individual, they become a podling. So they tell you the Bodytaker can capture victims or accept them from other podling servants, bringing individuals to them. In either case, they're going to drag this creature into a central pod. There, the individual's going to be comatose. In over hours, they're going to be dissolved. So they're going to be completely destroyed and then reformed into this podlings. It looks like there's no bringing an individual back. It's sort of like they've been digested in the belly of this plant and then changed into this podling. So there's the stats on the Bodytaker, right? Pretty tough, 92 hit points, challenge rating 7. So they give you all these details on it right here. It has a telepathic link with any of its podlings within 10 miles. So as DM, I'd probably keep all the podlings within a 10-mile range right there. It has that rejuvenation. Again, if you don't poison or salt the ground, it's just going to grow right back. So they talk about its attacks. It's got this bind lash that has a grappling effect. Again, that's a good way to scare somebody in the party right there. And then this entrapping pod where it changes the individual into a podling. Now, after someone has been replaced by podling, this would be just like a doppelganger replacing somebody. What would they be like? Now, they tell you these podlings will have the thoughts of the previous person. They are, from what they tell you here, it looks like almost an exact perfect duplicate. But they will have these little odd things about their behavior. So as DM, you're going to throw these little hints out there here occasionally. Of course, I'd have the player in the party. I would tell them what has happened, get them off to the side, give them their new stat block, and have them play the podling out. And then, of course, whenever the party figures it out and they get killed or whatever, they can just drop a new character. But that's probably what you do with doppelgangers. Just have the player play them. That way nobody knows what's going on. But how would they know this individual become a podling? They tell you the podling starts to develop different habits, right? It ignores the old hobbies and habits it had before and just sort of changes all of a sudden. They tell you that this one lavishes over plants. In other words, it seems much more concerned about the health of, say, the tree in the front yard than it does anybody in the party. That'd be odd there. The podling relishes exposing its skin to the sun, so it's always wanting to get out in the sun, like you would imagine a plant would, right? Want to get that sunlight energy there. It reacts as if something unseen is speaking to it. Well, that's the Bodytaker Plant speaking to it telepathically. So every once in a while, maybe they just mumble something and it doesn't seem that there's anybody there to respond to them. They might communicate with deep speech, or the podling no longer understands just what it means to have a relationship. Again, I would treat these things as totally alien. They wouldn't know what it was like to have common courtesy or not just suddenly urinate in the middle of a street, right, in the middle of a town. You could think of some crazy, funny things to do that this podling wouldn't have any idea, were just not socially acceptable. So you could have a lot of fun with this thing right here. So there's the podling there. There's its little armor class hit points. Of course, it's not near as tough as what the Bodytaker is, but of course, if they encounter podlings, I'd have them encounter the Bodytaker if at all possible. So there they mention all its different stats and so on down the line right there, and its actions got a slam and so on down the line. So there's the first of these new monsters, plus some other information they give you on making monsters different. I think that's some great information right there. So that gets us started on the monsters here in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. We'll see all the others soon enough. Till next time, good luck and good gaming.